Then, of course, you also had sellouts such as Tito Mboweni, who was an economic advisor to the office of President Mandela. In 1991, Madiba went to the first World Economic Forum that he attended in Davos, January 1991. Madiba had a speech that was given to him by the economic desk of the ANC, which said, we're continuing with a policy of nationalization of the land, nationalization of the mines, the big industries, etc. Tito took that speech sitting in his hotel room in Davos and scratched those paragraphs out, rewrote the speech all on his own for Madiba. So he changed that speech. So there all of us are sitting. We're listening to Madiba speaking at the World Economic Forum. And suddenly we hear that we are no longer going to nationalize the commanding heights of the economy. The land will be protected through property rights, etc. And we said, what the hell is going on?
So when former president, the late Nelson Mandela, was reading the speech, couldn't you see that this speech has been changed?
I don't know.
30 years, more than 30 years now, the ANC has failed to return the land to the people of South Africa. And there are many failures that we can point to. What do you think has, in fact, led or has, made the ANC fail to return the land to its people? What are some of the contributing factors to the ANC's failures on the land question?
Titus, it's not just the land. It's also no free quality education, no proper health care.
Of course, yes.
No decent housing, all of those promises that the ANC used to make. You know, the ANC was formed on the 8th of January 1912, and at the essence of its formation was the issue of land. But as the years went on, the ANC became also an organization that imbued in its existence an understanding of radical economic transformation. Also because of the role of the then South African Communist Party and the trade union movement. If you look at the strategy and tactics documents of the ANC in the 40s, the 50s, and the 60s, it talks very eloquently about economic transformation. It talks about the return of the land. About nationalization of the commanding heights of the economy, of the mines and all the big industries.
Yes.
It does all of that. And I believe at that point, the African National Congress was still a revolutionary organization. But the ANC got infiltrated.
Okay.
And that infiltration started already during the exile years. Because there was a plan by the big white monopoly capitalist companies in this country, also together with international imperialism, to infiltrate the ANC. To also make some of the leaders of the ANC dependent on the funding and the finances that they were giving them. And they were starting to buy over people. Also, the intelligence services infiltrated the ANC, the CIA, MI6, MI7 from the British side, and many other Western intelligence agencies.
Yeah. And sorry.
Now, I just want to emphasize this because already in the mid-1980s, when the ANC met with the big captains of industry from South Africa in Lusaka,
yes.
If you listen to an interview that Comrade Ronnie Casuals gave many years later, he says, I was absolutely shocked and surprised by how quickly the leadership of the ANC went belly up and agreed with those captains of white monopoly capitalist big industry that the economy should not change, that there should not be a transfer of the land and of the big means of production into the hands of the people. So then already the ANC had been infiltrated.
Okay.
But the worst thing that happened to the ANC was during the negotiating process, during CODESA.
Yes.
When obviously people like Cyril Ramaphosa, Pravin Gordhan, and others had already been made agents of white monopoly capitalism. But they were still appearing there as those who were working for the people, so to speak. They were still there as so-called members of the African National Congress. And they accepted a constitution that was going to make it totally, utterly impossible for us to return the land to the people and to change the economic dynamics in this country. Then, of course, you also had sellouts such as Tito Mboweni, who was an economic advisor coming from a very high-profile university in the United Kingdom and being taught everything about new liberal economic policies, da-da-da-da. And he then worked himself into the office of President Mandela to become his chief economic advisor. In 1991, Madiba went to the first World Economic Forum that he attended in Davos, January 1991. And what happened? Madiba had a speech that was given to him by the economic desk of the ANC, which said, we're continuing with a policy of nationalization of the land, nationalization of the mines, the big industries, etc. Tito took that speech sitting in his hotel room in Davos and scratched those paragraphs out, rewrote the speech all on his own for Madiba. The next thing, all of us who participated in writing that speech, and I was one of those who participated to write that speech. Sorry, you wanted to ask me?
So Tito Mboweni is an enabler or was an enabler of white monopoly
absolutely.
capital.
Tito has always been. Tito was clearly a sellout right from the beginning. And I challenge him to come and tell me that he was not. But I was telling you this story. So he changed that speech. So there all of us are sitting. We're listening to Madiba speaking at the World Economic Forum. And suddenly we hear that we are no longer going to nationalize the commanding heights of the economy. The land will be protected through property rights, etc. And we said, what the hell is going on? There's no decision taken in the National Executive Committee of the ANC to change our economic policy. But the reality was, at that stage, Madiba couldn't be contradicted. His power, his authority in the ANC was such that it was very difficult once he had spoken to turn it around.
So
Tito boasted afterwards, and this sticks in my throat. Many years later, he was at a conference at the Hyatt in Rosebank, together with all his chums in Goldman Sachs and Old Mutual, Trevor Manuel, Maria Ramos, that whole clique. And he was boasting, he said, I trashed the ANC's nationalization program in a garbage bin in a hotel in Davos. And he laughed.
So when former president, the late Nelson Mandela, was reading the speech, couldn't you see that this speech has been changed?
I don't know. I can just tell you what happened. I can tell you what Madiba did. I am not going to go beyond the facts. The facts are very clear because I was part of the team of people who wrote the speech for Madiba, that the speech was totally changed. But it set in motion a process of the introduction of new liberal economic policies in the ANC, which was pushed even harder by President Thabo Mbeki after he came into the presidency following Madiba's retirement. And that new liberal economic policy program has been sustained throughout in the ANC, and under Cyril Ramaphosa now, it is
even
on
worse.
steroids. It's
Yeah.
worse. Now we are being totally sold out. The only time that there was a bit of a holding back, a bit of reversing from this new liberal economic policy program was during the time of President Jacob Zuma.
Okay.
But President Zuma also never really managed to totally change that policy program. He just managed to put the brakes onto it. But I understand that he was under a lot of pressure and that there was a lot of reaction by the white monopoly capitalists against him when he came into power because he was never part of their plan. They never wanted him to become president.
So there you have it, guys. Our African leaders try to do their best, in their speeches and try to make speeches that actually to show, their efforts in trying to help manage the challenges which Africa is actually facing through and has been facing through since the colonial times. And so we here to really listen to these speeches and to share our thoughts in the comments. And so whatever it is you guys think about these speeches, please do share your thoughts in the comments.
Thank you for watching, guys. I really hope you enjoyed this video. Please share and like and subscribe, because that's the way you support Kwazemi as a channel, an Afrocentric channel, where we try to understand deeper issues in African history and hopefully develop a collective intelligence on how we wish to build the Africa we want to see as people of Africa. See you in the next one.